My name is Benjamin Hayes, and up until that godforsaken night in late October, I'd convinced myself I was as straight as the endless highways snaking through the flatlands of Nebraska. Born and raised in the dust-choked town of Harlan. Population 1,247. Give or take a combine harvester. I'd done everything right by the playbook my folks handed down. Church every Sunday at First Baptist, where Pastor Ellis preached fire and brimstone about the sins of the flesh. Friday night lights at Harlan High, where I'd quarterback the Cougars to a state semifinal my junior year. The whole town chanting my name like I was some small-town messiah. And girls, oh, I dated my share. Sweet, sun-freckled cheerleaders like Katie Reynolds, who baked me apple pie after games and whispered about white picket fences in the back of my daddy's old Ford. It wasn't that I didn't like Katie. Hell, I loved the idea of her, the normalcy, the way she fit into the puzzle of who I was supposed to be. We'd park out by the old water tower, fogging up the windows with kisses that felt scripted, like scenes from those John Hughes movies my sister bootlegged on VHS. But even then, something gnawed at me. A quiet itch under my skin I chalked up to teenage restlessness. "You're just wired tight, son," Dad would say, clapping me on the shoulder after a rough practice, his calloused hands smelling of motor oil and regret. He'd lost the family farm to the bank in '89, and ever since, he'd drilled into me that weakness was a luxury we Hayes boys couldn't afford. Mom, softer around the edges but no less resolute, would nod along, her Bible open on the kitchen table like a shield against the world's chaos. High school blurred by in a haze of touchdowns and prom corsages, and by graduation, I had a partial ride to the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, UNL, the Cornhuskers' kingdom, where the big red sea of fans swallowed you whole on game days. I packed up my duffel that summer of 2002, kissed Mom goodbye under the porch light, and promised Dad I'd make him proud. Lincoln was a whole different beast from Harlan. Bigger, louder, with skyscrapers that scraped the prairie sky and streets buzzing with kids who didn't know the sting of a prayer meeting confession. My dorm room in Abel Hall overlooked the quad, a sprawl of crabgrass and frisbee-tossing undergrads, and for the first few weeks, I threw myself into it like a man possessed. Psych 101 lectures in drafty auditoriums, keggers in off-campus basements where the beer flowed like the Platte River, and yeah, more girls. There was Sarah from Omaha with her laugh like wind chimes, and then Jess, the art major who dragged me to poetry slams and made me feel like I was cracking open a cold one with the universe. But then came Asher Cole. It was the third week of fall semester in our American Lit seminar, some god-awful 8 a.m. class on Whitman and Thoreau that Professor Hargrove droned on about like they held the secrets to the soul. I slouched in the back row, nursing a hangover from the night before, when this guy bursts in 5 minutes late, all apologies and easy charm. Tall, lean as a whipcord, with hair the color of burnt caramel that fell just shy of his collar, and eyes, Jesus, those eyes, like storm clouds rolling over the plains, gray and piercing. He wore a faded Ramones tee under a denim jacket patched with band logos, jeans ripped at the knees, and scuffed Doc Martens that echoed on the linoleum as he slid into the seat next to mine. "Sorry, Prof. Flat tire on the interstate," he drawled, that southern lilt sneaking in despite his claim of being born in Chicago. Hargrove just grunted and launched back into Song of Myself. But Asher turned to me with a grin that hit like a sucker punch. "You look like death warmed over, man. Rough night." I blinked, caught off guard by the casual intimacy of it, like we'd been swapping stories for years instead of seconds. "Something like that. You?" He leaned back, stretching his legs under the desk until his boot nudged mine. Accidental, or so I told myself. "Nah, just couldn't sleep. City lights keep me up. Name's Asher." "You?" Benjamin Hayes." I stuck out my hand, and when he shook it, his grip was firm, warm, lingering a beat too long. Something flipped in my gut then, a spark I dismissed as the coffee curdling, but it stuck with me through the rest of class. His pen scratching notes beside me like Morse code I couldn't decode. Afterward, he fell into step as we headed to the Union for lunch, talking a mile a minute about Kerouac's road trips and how he'd hitchhiked from Illinois just to see if the Heartland lived up to the hype. Turns out Asher was a transfer from some community college in the Windy City, undeclared major but leaning toward journalism. Gotta tell stories, you know? The real ones, not the sanitized bullshit. He was 21, a year ahead of me, with a laugh that boomed like thunder and a way of listening that made you feel seen, really seen, for the first time. We grabbed trays in the crowded cafeteria, mystery meatloaf and jello salad that jiggled like it had regrets, and found a table by the windows overlooking Memorial Stadium. Asher devoured his food while peppering me with questions. Harlan? Football star? What was the wildest thing I'd ever done? I spun tales of bonfire parties and sneaking beers from Dad's garage. But inside, I was scrambling, piecing together this version of Ben that fit the mold. He nodded along, but his eyes, those damn eyes, seemed to peel back the layers, spotting the cracks I didn't even know were there. By the end of lunch, we'd exchanged numbers on napkins, and that night, my phone buzzed with a text. Kerouac was right. Road's no good without a co-pilot. Coffee tomorrow? I stared at the screen in the dim glow of my bunk, thumb hovering, a flush creeping up my neck that had nothing to do with the space heater rattling in the corner. Sure, I typed back, hitting send before I could overthink it. That was the beginning. Coffee turned into late-night study sessions in the library's third-floor stacks, where the air smelled of old paper and desperation, and we'd debate Frost's Road Not Taken until the Carillon bells tolled midnight. Asher had this way of challenging everything. Why settle for the safe path when the wild one called? He'd quote Ginsberg with a wink, his voice dropping low on the raw parts, and I'd laugh it off, but my pulse would race, a traitor in my chest. We started hitting the bars on O Street, dive joints with neon signs flickering like faulty halos, where he'd nurse a whiskey neat and I'd stick to Bud Light, watching him charm the bartenders and barflies alike. He was magnetic, unapologetic, with stories that spanned from underground punk shows in Wicker Park to a summer backpacking the Appalachians alone. And me? I was the anchor, the steady one, or so I thought, until his hand brushed mine under the table one night, accidental again, and I didn't pull away. Fall deepened, leaves turning the campus into a blaze of crimson and gold, and our friendship solidified like the frost on the dorm windows. We'd tailgate before Husker games, grilling brats on a rusty Weber while the band blared. There is no place like Nebraska. And afterward, sweaty and hoarse from cheering, we'd collapse on his futon in the off-campus apartment he'd scored. A shoebox walk-up above a laundromat, posters of Dylan and Bowie peeling from the walls. One game night, after a come-from-behind win against Oklahoma, we cracked open a six-pack and sprawled on the floor, backs against the bed, the room spinning from adrenaline and cheap lager. "You're something else, Hayes," he said, tilting his head back to drain his can, Adam's apple bobbing in a way that made my throat dry. "Most guys here are all bluster and bravado. You've got depth. Like ocean deep." I shrugged, heat rising to my face under the guise of the buzz. "Just a farm boy trying to keep up." He turned then, those gray eyes locking on mine, close enough I could smell the hops on his breath. "Nah, you're more than that. Question is, do you know it yet?" The air thickened, charged like the moments before a tornado siren wails, and for a split second, I thought he might lean in, cross that invisible line we'd been dancing around. But he didn't. He just clapped me on the knee, stood up, and cranked the radio to some replacements track, the guitar riff shattering the tension like glass. I exhaled, relief and disappointment twisting in my gut, and told myself it was nothing, just bros being bros. But it wasn't nothing. Not really. That itch under my skin, it had grown into a full-blown ache, one that kept me up nights, staring at the water-stained ceiling, replaying his words, his touches, the way his laugh lit up the dimmest rooms. I dated Jess sporadically, sure. Dinners at Valentino's, walks along the Antelope Creek. But it all felt hollow now, like wearing a costume that no longer fit. And Asher? He had his flings too. Girls from sororities and a guy once, mentioned in passing over pancakes at the breakfast club. Yeah, dated this artist type last year. Intense, but it burned out. He said it casual, like discussing the weather, but it landed like a grenade in my lap. Gay. B. Whatever label fit, he wore it easy, while I was still fumbling in the dark. Thanksgiving loomed, and with it, the pull back to Harlan. Mom called twice a week, her voice tinny over the line. "How's that girl, Ben?" The one with the pretty smile. I'd mumble about classes, dodge the questions, but the guilt festered. Dad's letters arrived like clockwork, typewritten on his old underwood, full of advice on staying true to your roots. What would they say if they knew? If they saw the way I watched Asher across a crowded lecture hall, or how my dreams tangled with his face, blurred and urgent. The week before break, we drove out to Pioneers Park, the truck bed loaded with a cooler of sandwiches and a frisbee that ended up lost in the underbrush. The sun hung low, painting the hills in honeyed light, and we hiked the trails until our boots were caked in mud, collapsing finally on a bluff overlooking the city. Asher lit a joint, contraband from a roommate's stash, and passed it over, the smoke curling lazy into the sky. "Ever think about running away?" he asked, exhaling a plume that caught the breeze. "Just you, me, the open road. No expectations, no bullshit." I took a drag, coughing as it burned my lungs, the world softening at the edges. All the time, but then what? Can't outrun yourself forever. He studied me, joint dangling from his fingers. Maybe not running, just choosing, picking the road that scares you most. Our eyes met, and there it was again, that pull, magnetic and terrifying. His hand rested on the grass inches from mine, and I swear the earth tilted, gravity shifting toward him. I wanted to bridge that gap, to let the words spill out. "I think I'm falling for you," and it terrifies me. But fear clamped down, a vice on my throat. Instead, I stubbed out the joint and stood, brushing dirt from my jeans. "We should head back. Early class tomorrow." He nodded, masking whatever flickered in his gaze, and we drove in silence, the radio humming low with Springsteen, Thunder Road, of all things. That night, alone in my room, I punched my pillow until my arms ached, cursing the confusion roiling inside me. Straight? Yeah, right. The mirror lied every morning. But Asher? He was the truth staring back, unblinking. Little did I know the real storm was just brewing. Winter hit Lincoln like a freight train, blizzards that buried the campus under feet of snow, wind howling through the viaducts like lost souls. Classes dragged on, finals looming like storm clouds, but Asher and I carved out our rhythm amid the chaos. Mornings in the Union, scarves wrapped tight, steaming mugs of diner coffee between us as we quizzed each other on poli-sci terms. Afternoons in his apartment, huddled over textbooks while the radiator clanked like a dying engine, his knee bumping mine under the table until it wasn't accidental anymore. We'd laugh it off, but the touches lingered, electric threads weaving tighter. He opened up more as the weeks wore on, peeling back layers like an onion that made my eyes water. His mom had split when he was 8, leaving him and his dad in a cramped walk-up on Chicago's South Side. Dad was a union welder, tough as rebar but soft on the inside, the one who'd introduced Asher to folk records and civil rights marches reruns. "He taught me to fight for what's right," Asher said one night, snow tapping the window like impatient fingers. "Even if it means standing alone." There was a girl in high school, then the artist Evan, with tattoos like scripture and a temper that scorched. It ended ugly, Asher nursing a split lip and a broken heart. But he'd walked away wiser, vowing never to hide again. "Your turn," he'd say, nudging me with his elbow, but I'd deflect with jokes about Harlan's annual corn festival or Dad's conspiracy theories about the government seeding clouds. The truth? It festered, a shadow I couldn't shake. Christmas break pulled me home, the Greyhound rumbling through iced-over fields, Harlan greeting me with its familiar chill. Main Street strung with twinkling lights, the air sharp with chimney smoke and pine from wreaths on every door. Mom fussed over me like I'd been gone a decade, piling my plate with turkey and cranberry relish, her eyes searching mine for cracks. Dad grunted approval at my grades, but over coffee by the fire, he cornered me. "Heard you're running with some city boy. Don't let him drag you into trouble. Ben, stick to your own kind." His words landed heavy, laced with the unspoken fear of anything that deviated from the script. That night, in my childhood bed with its faded Huskers posters, I dreamed of Asher. His hand in mine, running through snow-dusted streets, laughter echoing until it shattered into Dad's disapproving glare. I woke sweating, the room spinning, and vowed to bury it deeper. Back at UNL in January, the campus was a ghost town of icicles and bundled figures, but Asher waited at the bus stop, breath fogging the air. A thermos of hot toddies thrust into my gloved hands. "Missed you, Hayes," he said, simple as that, and hugged me. Quick, fierce, his chin brushing my temple. My heart stuttered, but I played it cool, clinking mugs as we trudged to his place for a welcome-back binge of the Big Lebowski and pizza that arrived half-frozen. That's when things shifted, subtle as a fault line cracking. We were midway through the movie, sprawled on his couch with blankets piled high, when his head lolled onto my shoulder, exhaustion from a double shift at the campus bookstore. I froze, his weight warm and solid, hair tickling my neck, the scent of his shampoo, something citrusy and clean, flooding my senses. Minutes ticked by, the dude's monologue droning on, and I should have moved, created space, but I didn't. Instead, I let my arm drape around him, tentative testing. He stirred, murmuring something incoherent, and nestled closer, his hand finding my knee under the Afghan. The credits rolled, and he woke with a start, gray eyes bleary but aware. "Shit, sorry, long day." But he didn't pull away, not fully. The room hummed with unspoken voltage. The radiators hissed the only sound. "Ben," he started, voice rough. "About that road we talked about." I swallowed, throat tight. "Yeah." He sat up, turning to face me, knees touching mine. "I meant it. With you. If you'd, you know." His fingers traced the seam of my jeans, light as a question, and my breath hitched, the world narrowing to that point of contact. Could have bolted, grabbed my coat, mumbled about an early lecture. But the dam cracked, words tumbling out in a rush. "I think about it, all the time. But what if?" He leaned in, slow enough to stop, his forehead resting against mine, breaths mingling. "What if we don't care? Just for tonight?" Our lips met then, soft, hesitant, tasting of whiskey and want. It wasn't fireworks. It was a slow burn, kindling long buried, his hand cupping my jaw like I was fragile, precious. We kissed until my lungs ached, exploring with a tenderness that scared me more than the passion. When we broke apart, foreheads pressed, he whispered, "You're safe with me, Ben. Always." That night, we didn't go further, curled up instead, his back to my chest, my arm slung over his waist like it belonged there. Sleep came fitful, dreams weaving between Harlan's judgmental stares and the steady rise-fall of his breathing. Morning brought pancakes and shy grins, the awkward beauty of newness. We didn't label it, not yet, just slipped into it, stolen moments between classes. A kiss in the stairwell of Andrews Hall, fingers laced under the library table, texts that made me smile like an idiot. But secrets have a way of seeping out like groundwater poisoning a well. It started small, Jess cornering me after a lecture, her eyes narrowed. "What's with you and that Cole guy? People are talking." I brushed it off, but the whispers spread, a murmur through the frat houses and coffee lines. Asher didn't care. He thrived on it, introducing me to his queer circle at the LGBTQ Center. Drag brunches at the Q Cafe, panels on Stonewall that left me reeling with history I should have known. I dipped a toe, attended one meeting, but the vulnerability clawed at me. What if Dad heard? What if Harlan's narrow streets closed off forever? February brought Valentine's, and Asher planned a surprise. A drive to the Platte River Sanctuary at dawn. Thermos of cocoa and blankets spread on frost-kissed sandbars. Sandhill cranes wheeled overhead, their calls echoing like ancient trumpets, and he pulled a small box from his jacket. Nothing fancy. A silver chain with a pendant shaped like a compass rose. "For finding your way," he said, fastening it around my neck, his fingers lingering on my collarbone. I kissed him there, under the paling sky, the river murmuring approval. "I love you," I breathed, the words escaping unbidden, true as the sunrise. His smile cracked the cold. "Took you long enough, Hayes." We laughed, tangled in each other, the world vast and possible. But as we drove back, radio crooning Lucinda Williams, my phone buzzed. A text from my roommate, Mike. Dude, check your email. Shit hit the fan. Heart sinking. I pulled over at a gas station. The pumps beep mocking me as I logged in. It was a chain. Blurry photos from a party last month. Asher and me in a corner. Too close, his hand on my thigh. Sender anonymous. But the subject line screamed. Hayes the homo? Nausea roiled. Who? Why? Mike's follow-up. Whole floors buzzing. Coach called. Says sit out practice till you sort it. The truck cab closed in. Asher's hand on my arm, a lifeline I wanted to shove away.
Ben.
Talk to me. I handed him the phone, the images glaring up like accusations. His face hardened, jaw ticking. Bastards. Probably that prick from Kappa Sig. Remember Tyler? The one who cornered me at the bar. Rage bubbled, hot and helpless. This gets back to my folks. I trailed off, the pendant suddenly heavy as guilt. Asher cupped my face. Fierce. We'll handle it. Together. But together felt fragile then. A kite string fraying in the wind. The scandal didn't explode overnight. It simmered, a pot left too long on the burner, until the whole damn thing boiled over. By mid-March, the photos had wormed their way through campus like a virus. Forwarded emails, Snickers in the weight room, Coach Ramirez pulling me aside after practice with that pitying squint. Hayes, you're a leader here. This distraction, it ain't helping the team. I nodded, mute, lacing my cleats tighter while the locker room emptied. Echoes of laughter chasing me out. Asher was my rock, steady as the Missouri River carving its banks. We'd hole up in his apartment, blinds drawn against the prying world, trading takeout for takeout and stories for solace. Remember Evan? He'd say, tracing patterns on my palm. He outed me to my dad over a screaming match. Thought it'd break me. Didn't. His resilience was a bomb. But mine? It cracked under the weight of Harlan's ghost. Imagined calls from Mom. Dad's truck idling outside my dorm. Headlights accusatory. I tried compartmentalizing. Mornings for denial, burying myself in midterms. Afternoons for stolen bliss. Asher's lips chasing away the chill. We explored Lincoln's underbelly together. Poetry readings at the Blue Door, where his hand in mine felt revolutionary. Drives to the dunes at Platte River State Park, where we'd lie in the grass, clouds drifting like unanswered prayers. One evening, as thunder rumbled distant, he confessed his fear. I push hard because I'm scared too, Ben. Scared you'll wake up one day and choose the easy road. I pulled him close, rain pattering the truck roof. Not happening. You're my North Star. But doubt is a thief slipping in through the cracks. Tyler Voss, that smug Kappa pledge with daddy's money and a grudge from a bar scuffle, escalated it. He cornered Asher after a Husker game tailgate. Beer on his breath. Frat bros flanking like hyenas. Ferry and his farm boy real heartwarming. But Ben? He's just slumming. Wait till his redneck pops finds out. Asher decked him. A clean hook that split Tyler's lip, and the fallout was swift. Campus security report. A week suspension for Asher. Whispers turning to outright jeers. I confronted Tyler in the student union, slamming his tray so hard the fries scattered like shrapnel. You send those pics? Back off or I'll. He smirked, dabbing his mouth with a napkin. Prove it, QB. But hey, truth hurts, right? Asher's poison. Dragging you down to his level. His words burrowed deep, feeding the worm of self-doubt. That night, I lashed out at Asher over cheap Chinese, the fortune cookies uneaten on the table. Why'd you have to hit him? Now it's everywhere. He recoiled, fork clattering. He threatened you, Ben. What, you want me to roll over? It's my life getting torched. The pendant burned against my chest, a brand. You don't get it. Back home, this shit gets you disowned. Or worse. His eyes flashed hurt, then steel. And here? You're just gonna hide? I thought we were in this. We made up in the sheets. Apologies whispered against skin. But the fracture lingered, a hairline that widened with every sideways glance. Spring break arrived like a reprieve, but I went home alone. Asher to Chicago, me to Harlan's suffocating embrace. The farm felt smaller, the fields mocking my turmoil with their orderly rows. Mom sensed it, her hugs lingering. "You seem troubled, honey. Girl trouble." I forced a laugh, helped Dad mend fences, but at night, I'd sneak the cordless to the barn, Asher's voice crackling through static. "Miss you. Come back soon." Easter Sunday, Pastor Ellis's sermon on Judas's betrayal hit too close. Silver coins clinking in my mind like accusations. Dad clapped me on the back after, pride in his eyes. "Proud of you, son. Keeping the faith." Guilt twisted like barbed wire. I drove to the water tower that night, spray-painted hearts faded under moonlight, and texted Asher, "I love you, but I'm scared." His reply, "Me too. Fight for us?" I did, or tried. Back in Lincoln, we dove deeper. Joined a support group at the center, where stories of coming out unfolded like war tales, survivors scarred but standing. Asher thrived, sharing our journey with that raw poetry of his. I hung back, nodding, the compass pendant my talisman. Graduation loomed, scouts sniffing around for pro tryouts, but the noise faded against the hum of us. Then the betrayal came, swift as a sucker punch. It was late April, cherry blossoms shedding petals like confetti on the quad. Mike, my roommate, trusted Mike, with his goofy grin and shared late-night smokes, pulled me into our room after practice, face ashen. "Ben, Shit, I have to tell you something." He handed me a printout email chain timestamped yesterday. From him, to my parents. Subject, "Your son needs help." The words blurred. Details of the photos, my lifestyle choice. A plea for intervention. "I thought I was helping," he stammered. "Tyler got to me, said Asher was using you, that you'd thank me later. I forwarded it this morning." Rage blinded me. I shoved him against the wall, fist cocked, but dropped it, chest heaving. "Get out. Now." He slunk away, door clicking shut like a guillotine. I grabbed my keys, tore across campus to Asher's, the truck fishtailing on slick streets. Spring storms brewing. He answered shirtless, towel around his neck from a shower, confusion melting to alarm.
"Ben."
"What's?" I thrust the printout at him, voice breaking. "Mike," he told them. "Everything." Asher scanned it, face draining of color. "That son of a..." But I was unraveling, pacing the cramped living room, the walls closing in. "It's over. They'll come for me. Drag me home. Fix me with prayers and bullshit therapy. I can't." He grabbed my arms, grounding me. "Hey, breathe. We'll call them together. Face it head on." "No." I wrenched free, the dam bursting. "You don't get it, Asher. This isn't your world, Chicago grit. Proud dad."
"Mine?"
"It's denial or exile. I thought I could do this, but maybe Tyler's right. Maybe you're the distraction." The words hung, poisonous, and horror clawed my throat. Asher's eyes, those storm-gray eyes, shuddered, pain raw as an open wound. "Is that what you think? That I'm some phase?" "I don't know," I shouted, tears hot on my cheeks. "I thought I was straight, Asher, until you, and now, everything's ruined." He stepped back, arms folding like armor. "Then go. Fix your straight life. But don't blame me for showing you who you are." I stormed out, slamming the door, the echo chasing me into the rain-lashed night. The truck roared to life, wipers slashing futilely, and I drove, aimless, furious, until the city lights blurred into prairie dark. Pulled over on some county road, corn whispering secrets. I screamed into the void, fists pounding the dash until blood slicked the wheel. Hours later, phone dead, I crashed at a motel off I-80, the clerk's indifferent gaze my only witness. Dreams came fevered. Asher's face dissolving into Dad's, Mike's betrayal looping like a bad reel. Dawn broke gray, and reality crashed in. A voicemail from Mom, voice trembling. "Ben? Call us. Please. We love you, no matter what. No matter what." The words mocked, but cracked the ice. I plugged in the charger, Asher's last text glowing. "If you need me, I'm here. Always." But pride and fear warred, and I drove west instead, toward Harlan, toward reckoning. The highway unspooled like a noose tightening, mile markers ticking down to judgment. Harlan loomed, silos stark against the overcast sky. The welcome sign faded. Home of the Cougars. Pride in every stride. Irony bit deep. I pulled into the driveway as dusk fell, gravel crunching under tires worn thin from indecision. The house glowed warm, curtains drawn, but the porch light flickered like a hesitant beacon. Mom met me at the door, apron dusted with flour, eyes red-rimmed but arms open wide. "Oh, Ben." She pulled me in. No questions, just the scent of yeast bread and unconditional hold. Dad sat at the kitchen table, coffee mug gripped like a lifeline. His face a map of furrows deepened overnight. Son. One word, heavy as harvest. We stared, the clock ticking accusations, until Mom broke it. "Sit, eat, then talk." Over slices of warm loaf slathered in butter, the story spilled. Not all, not the kisses or the compass's weight, but the bones. Friendship turned complicated, rumors twisted by envy, Mike's help a knife in the ribs. Dad's jaw worked, knuckles white on the mug. "This Cole boy, he put you up to it?"
No, Dad.
"It's me. All me." The admission hung air thick. He nodded slow, like swallowing glass, and Mom reached across, her hand cool on mine. "The Lord loves all his children, Ben, even the lost ones." But her voice wavered, scripture strained against the unknown. That night, in the barn with its hay-scent sanctuary, I called Asher. Voicemail. "It's Ben.
I'm sorry.
For everything. Call me?" No response by morning, and the silence echoed louder than thunder. Days blurred into a tense limbo, helping Dad with calving season, the new heifers lowing under starlight. Church where whispers slithered like snakes, Pastor Ellis's gaze lingering too long. Mom prayed over meals. Dad brooded in his recliner with the TV's murmur. One evening, as locusts hummed prelude to summer, he found me on the porch swing, chain creaking rhythm. "Your ma and I." We talked. He cleared his throat, uncomfortable in vulnerability's skin. "Ain't easy, this, but you're our boy. Always will be." Tears pricked, unbidden. "Even if?" He squeezed my shoulder, rough but real. "Even if. Just be careful. World ain't kind to different." It wasn't absolution, but it was a start, a bridge over the chasm. I returned to Lincoln a week later, the truck lighter, resolve heavier. Campus thrummed with end-of-semester fever, but Asher's apartment was dark, mailbox stuffed. Panic clawed. "Where is he?" Mike avoided my eyes in the hall, mumbling apologies I ignored. At the Q Cafe, his friends clustered. Lila, the drag queen with a heart of gold. Jamal, the activist with firebrand speeches. "He left," Lila said, stirring her latte, coal-rimmed eyes soft. "Packed up yesterday. Said something about the road calling, needed space." My gut hollowed. "Where?" "Headed east, maybe Chicago." Didn't say much, just that you deserved better than half measures. I drove to Pioneers Park that night, the bluff where we'd shared dreams, wind whipping prairie grass like accusations. Sat there till stars wheeled overhead, the compass pendant clutched in my fist, its edges biting skin. I chose wrong. Feared the storm instead of riding it. Dawn brought clarity. No more hiding. I texted his number, then called voicemail again. "Asher, it's me. I get it now, the road, the choice. I'm coming to find you. Don't give up on us." The drive east was a pilgrimage, interstates blurring Nebraska's flat into Iowa's rolls, then Illinois' sprawl. Billboards hawked diners and motels, radio cycling Willie Nelson laments. Chicago hit like a fever dream, skyline jagged against Lake Michigan's steel gray, streets pulsing with horns and humanity. I crashed at a youth hostel near Wrigleyville, the Bunk Springs protesting, dreams tangled with Asher's laugh. Days turned to a hunt, his old haunts from stories, the Green Mill for jazz sets, where a bartender remembered the kid with the notebook. Andersonville's queer bookstores, shelves groaning with titles that once intimidated. Jamal's contact yielded a lead. Asher's dad, a welder named Roy, in a Bridgeport bungalow. I pulled up on a drizzly afternoon, knuckles rapping the door, heart hammering. Roy Cole answered, broad as a doorframe, salt and pepper beard, eyes the same gray storm as his son's. You must be Ben. No question, just fact, stepping aside. The living room smelled of pipe tobacco and varnish, photos lining shelves. Asher gap-toothed at 10, prom-suited awkward, a faded shot of Roy and his wife, arms linked defiant. He's out back, Roy said, jerking a thumb. Welding a gate. Careful, sparks fly. The yard back to a rail yard, trains moaning distant. Asher stood at a makeshift forge, goggles down, torch hissing blue as he fused metal. Sweat beaded his brow, arms corded under a stained tank, oblivious. I approached slow, gravel crunching, throat dry. Asher. The torch cut, silence ringing. He pushed up the goggles, face smudged, shock widening those eyes.
Ben.
What the? I had to come. Words rushed, dam breaking. After Mike, the fight. Panicked. Ran home like a coward. But Dad, he didn't disown me. Said he loves me even if. And I realized you're not the distraction. You're the truth. The road I want. He set down the torch, wiping hands on his jeans, stance guarded. Took you long enough to figure that out. But you said it ruined. By me.
No.
I stepped closer, rain misting our faces. By fear.
Mine.
I love you, Asher Cole. Fully. No habs. Thunder grumbled. The sky splitting, downpour sudden and fierce. He searched my face, water sluicing his cheeks, then pulled me under the overhang, backs to the shed wall. You sure? This ain't Harlan. But it's messy too. My baggage, your ghosts. I kissed him then. Rain drumming a crescendo, salt and need mingling. He responded, hungry, hands fisting my shirt, the world narrowing to us. Two storms colliding, electric and alive. When we broke, gasping, he grinned through the wet. Damn you, haze, making me cry in the rain. We laughed, foreheads pressed, the yard flooding around us. Roy watched from the door, a nod of approval, pipe smoke curling skyward. That night, over Roy's pot roast and tales of Asher's boyhood scrapes, the pieces slotted. No grand gestures, just quiet commitment, plans sketched on napkins. Summer road trip, my pro tryout in the fall, his journalism internship. Betrayal's scar lingered, but so did resilience, a humanistic thread weaving through the hurt. Yet climax brewed, unbidden. A call from Lincoln, coach's voice terse. Hayes, scouts pulled out. Word got around. You're done here. The hit landed, dreams deferred, but Asher's hand in mine steadied. We'll pivot. Together. As summer bloomed, we hit the road. Route 66 echoes in a borrowed Chevy. Motels with neon vacancies. Diners dishing pie and possibility. St. Louis arch gleamed defiant. Grand Canyon yawned eternal. Each mile shedding skin. In a Sedona campground, stars carpet thick, we made promises. Not vows but truths. To choose each other, daily, bravely. Back east, Chicago's pulse welcomed. Asher's articles gaining traction in alt weeklies. My coaching gig at a community center a new field. Harlan faded, not erased. Letters from mom, tentative invites. Dad's first call came halting. Proud of you, son. For fighting. Humanity's grace, unearned but given. Fall returned, leaves carpeting Chicago's sidewalks in gold and rot. The city a symphony of sirens and soul. Asher and I settled into a walk-up in Logan Square. Creaky floors, bay window framing the L train's rumble. A kitchenette where we'd burn toast and dream big. He chased stories for the reader, profiles on drag houses and immigrant poets. His byline a badge of hard-won voice. I coached Pee-wee football at the rec center, tiny warriors in oversized pads, teaching not just plays but perseverance. The boy who stuttered finding his throw, the shy one scoring his first touchdown. It wasn't the NFL spotlight, but it lit something deeper, a legacy beyond glory. Our rhythm was hard-earned intimacy. Mornings tangled in sheets that smelled of him, coffee brewed strong. Evenings on the fire escape, city lights winking below, sharing the day's scars and triumphs. The pendant hung between us, compass pointing true. But wounds don't vanish, they scar, tender under pressure. Tyler's shadow lingered in nightmares, Mike's betrayal a caution. Asher's flinch at loud voices echoed old fights. We'd talk it out. Therapy sessions at a sliding scale clinic. His idea, no lone wolves, remember? Unpacking the baggage until it fit lighter. Thanksgiving pulled us cross-country, a haze coal fusion in Harlan. Mom outdid herself. Turkey brined and brine, pies from scratch, the table groaning under love's weight. Dad shook Asher's hand firm, eyes appraising but kind. Heard your writing. Good. World needs truth-tellers. Asher charmed with tales of Chicago's underbelly. Mom hanging on every word, her Bible set aside for once. After, in the barn under harvest moon, Dad pulled me aside. Tough road, son, but you chose heart. That's more than I did, holding grudges young. Tears stung man to man. Thanks, Dad, for letting me. He nodded, clapping my back. Family's what we build, not birth. Asher and I drove back snow-dusted, the plains a white canvas, radio crooning American Pie, ironic anthem. Christmas in Chicago, Roy's tree strung with heirlooms, eggnog spiked generous, Asher's gift a leather-bound journal. For your stories, QB, mine to him, a road map annotated with our haunts, dreams pinned like flags. Spring brought renewal, cherry blossoms along the lakefront mirroring our thaw. Asher landed a fellowship at Northwestern, investigative beat on youth advocacy. I started a blog, coaching tips laced with coming-out grit, readers trickling in from forums, their thanks a quiet vindication. We hosted game nights with Lila and Jamal, laughter echoing off brick walls, the circle widening. But drama's echo called one last time summer, a Harlan reunion invite via email, class of '02 bash at the VFW hall. Bring your +1, it read, winking emoji a olive branch. Asher hesitated. Your turf. Sure you want me invading? I kissed his temple. Need you there. Armor and all. The drive west was nostalgic ache. Fields greening, semis hauling grain. Harlan hadn't changed. Main Street's awnings faded. The water tower sentinel. The hall buzzed. Old teammates slapping backs. Katie Reynolds. Now married. 2 kids. Hugging me tight. Heard about you.
Proud, Ben.
Whispers hushed as Asher entered. Hand in mine. His grin defiant. Tyler lurked in a corner. Beer in fist. But approached sheepish. Hey man. Owed you an apology. Was scared, jealous, whatever. Water under. Eyed him cool. Bridge burned, Voss. But yeah, move on. Asher squeezed my hand. Anchor. We danced to Garth Brooks, his head on my shoulder, the room's stares softening to shrugs. Pastor Ellis even clapped Asher on the back. Welcome, son. Room in the flock for all. Climax crested that night, post-party bonfire on the old fairgrounds. Sparks ascending like prayers, stories looping round the flames. Dad raised a toast. To Ben and Asher, courage in the face of wind. Cheers rippled, and in that glow, betrayal's ghost fled, replaced by belonging. Years folded forward. Asher's book on queer Midwest voices, a quiet bestseller. My coaching climbed to high school ranks, undefeated seasons built on empathy. We bought a brownstone in Pilsen, walls hung with our road maps, a dog named Whitman yapping at squirrels. Marriage came in 2015, Iowa courthouse simple, vows exchanged under prairie sky, rings etched with compass points. Kids? Not biological, but foster runs. A teen runaway named Eli, scars from streets mirroring ours, finding home in our chaos. He called us dads, the word a miracle. Now, at 38, I look back. Not regret, but gratitude. That rainy night in the truck? Catalyst, not curse. Asher still stirs coffee too sweet, quotes Whitman at dawn. I still tackle him in the leaves, laughing till breathless. We've weathered blizzards, job losses, health scares, the world's cruelties, but emerged stronger, humanistic in our flaws. Forgiveness not perfection, love as verb. The road? It winds on, but with him, Every mile's a gift. I thought I was straight until Asher, and in that unraveling, I found myself whole, unapologetic, alive. In the end, it's not the storms that define us, but the hands we hold through them.